Okay, hello everyone from cold and rainy Serbia today. I have to say that experience was, I guess, like for most other people, was marked mainly by a lot of confusion in the beginning, a lot of awe in a way, because it's a huge book in every sense of the way, and approaching it and just beginning it is not even scratching its surface, I would say. So that was my initial reaction to the book. Of course, as you progress with the book, as my reading went further, as jigsaw pieces started fitting, I was actually, I understood, I think, pretty fast why it is a great book. As for the advice to the first-time readers, well, I always say the same thing when somebody asks me about this book. I think this book, maybe more than any or more than most, asks for patience. You need a lot of patience. You have to wait. You have to sort of let yourself to the author and allow him to discover certain things for you before you can do that on your own. On the other hand, I also recently I thought of a thing that could also be very useful, I think, when reading this book, and I think I can define that under the word silence. And I think that's also what reading this book requires. But what I mean by silence is not just, I don't mean turn off your music if you maybe read while listening to music, or I don't know, some kind of background noise. But what I do mean by this silence is I think it's good when reading this book, is good to turn off all this information inputs that we're being bombarded, every day, every hour, every minute almost, to turn off all those, noises that modern life makes us endure. So, and in that way, I think maybe it becomes a little bit easier to understand what Wallace was trying to say about those noises, actually. So patience and silence.
Hi, I'm Ulrich Blumenbach. I'm the German translator of Infinite Jest. As far as I remember, what I enjoyed most when first reading Infinite Jest was the mind-boggling multitude of voices. I think it might be hard to find another author who creates so many widely different characters, so full of life, and shows them with so much compassion, solidarity, and even love. A mathematics nerd speaks in formulas. An underprivileged young African-American woman speaks the, among translators, notorious Black American English. A young man has devoured the whole Oxford English Dictionary and commits, and I quote, a sort of lexical rape of the reader. A cocaine addict lives linguistically beyond his means and produces one malapropism after another. A French Canadian confronted me with the question of how to render in German the fact that the English of this character partly follows French grammar. I think I can best illustrate my encounter with Infinite Jest with a scene from Star Wars. Before I came across Wallace's prose, I often felt like Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, and Han Solo when they find themselves in the Death Star's trash compactor. The adulterated language of mass media, the linguistic junkyard of the internet, and the heaps of empty phrases pouring out of the television set made me claustrophobic. I had the impression the walls of my language, and with them the limits of my world, were closing in on me, were collapsing over me. For me, Wallace is the Han Solo of literature. He has, and I quote again, an allergy to the confining realities of the present, as he writes at one point. He presses back against the constrictions of catchphrase and cliché. His novel achieves an almost inconceivable expansion of literary language, For what Wallace ignites in the trash compactor of contemporary fiction is a supernova that explodes the space of language so that the heart and brain of the reader too burst their bounds. I think what German readers responded to in the first place in Infinite Jest was his take on depression. I remember that after public reading, a woman came up to me and asked why I had concentrated on the comic passages of the book. And Infinite Jest is a very, very funny book. It took me some time to realize that she and I had read completely different books. I started reading and translating it in 2003, I think. And to me, the novel was told by a man who had suffered from severe depressions, but he had overcome them in the end. To me, the writer's voice was a survivor's voice that gave solace and consolation. When the German translation came out, though, Wallace had committed suicide just a year before, so this woman had encountered an author with a deep understanding, yes, of, and empathy with depression, but to her, he had lost the fight. He had lost the struggle, which in a strange paradox made his take on depression all the more authentic. My first advice for first-time readers would be, don't be afraid. My immediate follow-up advice is, be patient. Yes, Wallace tries his readers' mettle. For the first 100 or even 200 pages, I was just lost and couldn't make head or tail of the plot, the characters, the weird places, and so on. It takes some time to put together the puzzle of the novel. Once you've left that stage behind you, though, it's all the more rewarding to find the narrative strands intertwine and interweave. It is a huge universe that opens up with its own history and its own politics. Thank you very much, and have fun.
Hi there, I'm Matt Booker, and I live in Austin, Texas. I wanted to talk about Infinite Jest because it's been an important book in my life, obviously. I first read the book. I bought it in 1997. This is the copy that I bought, paperback. I've marked it up since 1997. I was living in Denver, going to college there, and I bought the book, brought it home, and read it in my dorm room, and I was blown away. By about page 300 or so, I felt like this was the best book, the best novel I had ever read. I was hooked, I was sucked into it, and I wanted to talk to people about it. But it was 1997, it was hard to find other people who had read the book, and it was hard to find things on the internet. This was before Google existed. But I did eventually find those people, and I didn't know it then, but reading that book changed my life because I have been part of that community of readers now over 25 years. In the US, there's no question this has been one of the most important, one of the most widely read major literary novels of the past 50 years. And it's still taught at universities here. It's still got a community of people who are reading it for the first time. And there is so much in it that predicted the future of what happened in the United States over the past 30 years, both politically and technologically and in popular culture. So it's important for people who want to understand the literary movements of, postmodernism or post-postmodernism within the United States. But it's also important for people who want to read good literature and people who have heard that it's one of the best well-written novels, of our lifetimes. Those people are still attracted to the book as well. My advice for first-time readers is to just jump in. My other advice, which you'll hear a lot, is there are endnotes in the book, so it might be helpful to have two bookmarks. Put a bookmark in the back and flip back and forth. That going back and forth between the endnotes at the end of the book and the main text is sometimes likened to playing a game of tennis, which features prominently in the book. So I hope you enjoy Infinite Jest. I hope that you enjoy the translation, which I've heard is amazing, and find us online if you want to read more and talk to people You can Google the Wallace-L listserv, which I have been a part of since going back to 1997, 98, 99, somewhere in there. So please join us on that discussion. Obviously, you can join the DFW Society. We have an international literary society, dfwsociety.org. So I'll put in a plug for that as well. But congrats on the translation. It's a true accomplishment.
What was my initial experience reading Infinite Jest? Well, I loved it. It was hilarious. It was profoundly sad. And Wallace's voice, it sounded like the voice that's in my head. And so the characters felt more alive to me than characters usually do reading a book. And this was more than any other book I've ever read. I could not put this book down, especially as it barreled toward its conclusion. Your second question was, why do I think this book is important for readers globally? And every character in this book, hundreds and hundreds of characters, are obsessed or addicted. They're struggling with these problems. And all of us, every human being on the planet, either knows someone that is struggling with these addictions and obsessions, or we ourselves are struggling with that. And the characters in the book that are aware of their problems fare much better than the characters who aren't aware of that. And so reading this book can give you a lot of empathy for characters going through these situations, and it may also help with our own self-awareness if we're struggling with these problems. Your third question was what prompted me to spend 4 years writing a kind of guidebook for Infinite Jest. And the answer is, each section of the book feels like a puzzle piece that if you just arrange all these various puzzle pieces, you can come up with a finished picture. Now, what I found out was that 1, there are pieces missing on purpose. And 2, the creative process of putting the pieces, trying to arrange the pieces into a finished picture is more important than the finished picture itself. And 3, it's more fun if people are helping you with the puzzle. So this book, I spent a lot of time on the Wallace listserv community as I was writing the book. And this book promotes a sense of community, which is the very thing that will help with the addictions and obsessions and isolation that the book is about. Your last question was, any advice for first-time readers? Just enjoy it page by page. Don't try to make a lot of sense of it at first. If you just go page by page, every single page has profound sadness or extreme humor or literary brilliance and or honesty on every page. And so I would just read it, every page, and enjoy it as you go. And you'll likely come to love it as much as Moeed and I do.
Hello everybody, it is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this most momentous occasion as Infinite Jest is about to be published in Iran. My name is Borj Publishing. I was one of the Portuguese translators of the book. I did it with my father, 12 years ago. So my memory of it is a bit hazy now, but I distinctly recall being blown away by it when I first read it. Not just because of its fragmented and disjointed structure, and all those long, rambling, intricate sentences, but also because of the sheer amount of ideas and creativity on display, and the almost encyclopedic knowledge of David Foster Wallace as he seamlessly juggled low art and high art references and created what is a fascinating update on the great American novel traditions for the late 20th century. It is a very funny book, but behind all its acerbic wit lies a moving and profound meditation on themes such as alienation, addiction, loneliness, melancholy, as David Foster Wallace gets inside his multiple characters' heads and shows us all their frailties, but with great compassion and understanding. At the end of the day, it is also a book on language and its almost limitless possibilities. And finally, a very prescient and prophetic book as it announces the world that we live in today, with this solipsistic obsession with entertainment. So it is very exciting to know that David Foster Wallace planet keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we have to thank Mohim Faraki for it. It will be a steep climb, but once you get to the end of it, you will feel exhilarated.
Hello, Iranian readers. My name is Caetano Galindo. I am the Brazilian translator of Infinite Jest and of some other 60 books. And I can tell you that pretty much no other book keeps coming to my mind as often as this one. It is an amazing experience, a life-changing experience, an incredible novel. I am sure Moeen has done an awesome job translating the book, and I am sure you are not ready for what is coming your way. Be prepared, and good reading.